From Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, this is TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. And AJ, as I always do, my Apple Watch is dead. No, never mind.
133.
133. I thought my Apple Watch was dead. It's
133. We set a record.
My Apple Watch is in sleep mode.
We finished at 133 after Miami, maybe?
Yeah. I think it was that. I think it was the Miami game.
It's the seventh night game in 10 games.
It's brutal. It's a brutal stretch.
So,
great for fans, but brutal stretch for us.
Press box is up there. That will be my home for the next 4.5 hours.
And then you'll be back here.
And then I'll be back here for hoops.
Yep.
At least 4.5 hours.
Yeah, it's just a brutal tip-off time tomorrow at 2 o'clock for the hoops team. Yeah. And full disclosure, I had to go look at the score but between people storming the field, me dodging students trying to tackle me every 5 seconds, I had to go and look because I had no idea what happened in that game. 47-45 win for the Tar Heels over Duke in double overtime. And AJ, there's only one place we can start because he kind of essentially won the game for North Carolina. He literally did with the offensive plays he made in overtime to get Carolina ahead. Obviously, the defense makes a stop. Give them credit for that, at least in terms of the 2-point conversion. Didn't make a stop in terms of the touchdown. But Drake Maye, that's where we start. We have to talk about him. Yeah. He's the best. To me, he's the best quarterback in college football. We were talking about this off the record before we hopped on here. He's the reason they won the game tonight. He was absolutely fantastic. And like I just mentioned, culminating the plays he makes down there in the end zone, running one in, and you think he's getting tackled and just somehow tosses it to John Copenhaver for the 2-point conversion, which ultimately ended up being kind of sealing the game. So what a game. Great atmosphere in here. Yeah. Really fun to watch in Drake Maye's final home game here. We all expect it to be. Yeah. Don't know why it wouldn't be. Like Max said, I will make him leave because his stock's that high.
He said afterward, it was a fairy tale ending.
Yeah, and
what does that make you think?
I think that shows you right there. But what a way for Drake Maye to go out in Kenan Stadium because, again, he was fantastic.
Yeah, he was. And before I go on with that, this was the most traffic coming into Kenan for a game I've experienced in a long time. I thought the atmosphere was great. Got to give props to the fans. They deserve it.
Fantastic.
I thought it was fantastic. It was an electric atmosphere. They stuck the Duke band in the upper deck, which is always funny. So props to the fans. And most people stuck around.
Some people left, which was weird.
Left, but it was cold, and people got to drive a long way, and there's traffic. It's pretty bad getting out of here, so I get it. One other thing, shame on all the NFL scouts that were here. Mm-hmm. They left.
Did they?
It's this weird NFL scout culture thing where they get up their folder and just walk out like in the third quarter.
They left.
NBA scouts do it too. They tend to stick around more because the games are quicker. They left.
Is that like a night game thing? It's like I want to go to bed, or is it every? Okay,
it's an every game thing. So they left, and they missed the best quarterback in college football do things the best quarterback in college football do. He is awesome. He is the best quarterback in this school's history.
Yep.
Sam was amazing. Drake's a better player, a little bit better on a lot of different areas. Is a notch or two above. And he showed that tonight. And without the best player in college football, at least the best quarterback in college football, playing at an exceptionally high level, North Carolina doesn't win this game.
No.
And that's also to say that a lot of other guys did great things. Yeah. Bryson Nesbitt was fantastic. Tez Walker didn't get in the end zone, but he made some great catches. Omarion was a stud.
He's so good, man. He's really improved.
If you're seeing that they're opening up more things for him to do, I asked Drake tonight about you're kind of utilizing him with more stuff. Like his plate used to have like meat, potatoes, and a vegetable. Mm-hmm. Now he's got a side dish over here and a side dish over there. He's got a big salad with lots of dressing on it. I mean, he's got a 4-course meal that he's eating right now every time he steps on the field. Yeah. And it could be 5 or 6 courses by the time that they go to Raleigh here in a couple weeks. So I like using him in the passing game. He's so quick to turn upfield. And we've talked about I know this is a Drake segment, we talked about all the things that Omari has done to improve this year. Vision, he hasn't fumbled, by the way. Mm-hmm. How many guys in the country have touched the ball?
That's wild.
He's like among the top, or maybe the top right now, and not fumbling versus the number of touches. But his footwork was apparent tonight, and that's the other thing we really haven't given him credit for. Yeah. His footwork's better. Now, it helps when the mind's better, the vision's better, the judgment's better, the patience, the decisiveness, and the footwork's there. And the footwork was outstanding tonight. He showed that on a couple of little shovel passes, turns upfield and gets 8 or 9 yards when a year ago get dragged down for 1 or 2 yard loss.
He makes it look easy, too, at times. Like, especially for someone who's on the field, like, you see him run, you're like, he just ran for 10 yards, and like he got a second gear. I mean, he's just a good running back.
Yeah, I mean, Drake was a little short on a couple of long balls. But here's the thing, and I'm seeing people on Twitter do that, and I get what they're doing. We all tend to do that. He's so damn good, and he checks every box immediately. That it's like the model who's a 10. If she's got a pimple, people notice the pimple.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Of course, yeah.
It could be a small one. It could be over here where you'd have to look hard to find it, but holy crap, she's got a pimple. Yeah. So every once in a while, Drake has a pimple. Big deal. He came through, man.
Yeah.
He called it storybook or fairy tale storybook. He called it a couple of different.
Did Drake call it that, or was it Mac?
No, Drake was responding to questions about it, and I believe he said fairy tale. We'll have to go back and listen. He said about 4 times. It was very clear it's his last home game, but someone even asked him a question about Luke, which I don't know how that was relevant to things, but Drake is so good at playing that off, and he's so unassuming.
Yeah.
He's not going to sit there and say, I was great and I played great tonight. He doesn't do that.
Sometimes you wish he would, but
I kind of wish he would sometimes, but it wasn't a 500-yard game. He only threw 1 touchdown pass. His will to get them in field goal range at the end, his will to get them to a victory in this game, and there were a lot of issues in the red zone, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Some of that are his calls.
Yeah, for sure.
But a lot of it wasn't. I mean, pass play is pass play.
Yeah.
And even some of the so-called RPOs that they do, it's a little different than he did before. He's the best player in college football, best quarterback anyway, and he was awesome tonight.
Yeah, man, he was fantastic. I think, just what you were talking about with him and toughness and kind of the grit to kind of will this team to victory culminated in that trying to jump over a defender in the corner over there. And I had a great video on it. It'll be in my offensive highlights. You'll see it when that comes out. But
he wasn't supposed to do that anymore. He said tonight, he said, I asked how much guys for the game. I kind of feel like leaping tonight. Like there's a leap in. If you watch enough Drake's videos, you understand why I'm saying this. I can't do a Drake. I won't ever try to do a Drake. I asked him just as clarification. I said, you really said that? You said it before the game? Go, yeah, I told him. Feel like I was leaping tonight. He said, they got some small corners. I'm like, it's classic Drake.
That's a Drake answer, yeah.
It was a Drake answer, and lo and behold, he leapt. And it's somewhere Phil Longo watching the highlights and saying, I told you not to do that anymore.
Yeah. It didn't look good on video, but he got what I was going to say about it.
Charlie horse.
He was tough because he got up and just walked back to the huddle and didn't celebrate, didn't get hype with his players. It was just business-like.
This was a Drake will-to-win performance as much as it was legs, arm, mind, reading defenses and that kind of. He had one where it was like a 3rd and 6, I think it was, and Brandon's sitting next to me, Brandon P. And he says they got 5 in the box. They got to run the ball here. And Drake saw that, and he kind of did a quick little jab toward Amari and like fake a handoff and went that way. And it was a wide open space. He got 7 or 8 yards, got the first down. It's kind of cool sometimes when you see that and he's processing all this stuff. And he usually makes the right decision. He did there, and it was just a night of a lot of right decisions and a night of a lot of grit and will. The dude's a winner, man. He wants to win. He doesn't care if he throws for any yards. He wants to win.
Yeah, fitting way for him to go out in his final home game. Second thing, I'm not going to sit here and say it's negatives, but we have to. We got to pick it apart a little bit.
When you give up 45 points, when you give up 36 points in regulation to a true freshman third-string quarterback in his second start, there's a lot of negatives. And by the way, there were a lot of negatives on offense too.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about here because I remember sitting down here early in the game and talking to some photographers down here, and I said to a couple guys, these field goals are going to come back to haunt North Carolina.
Right.
You can't keep doing that. What did they kick? 3 or I think it was 4 field goals in the first half, something like that. Because it was 16. Carolina had 16 points at one point.
14. It was 19-14. No, it was 16-14.
16-14. Yes, because Carolina scored. So they kicked 4 field goals, scored 1 touchdown.
They got in the red zone 6 their first 7 possessions and had 1 touchdown.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part about it, just to focus on the offense real quick.
Every time.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it was the play calling or what, but it just felt like when Carolina got down here, they didn't know what to do. It's what it looked like as someone who was sitting in the end zone where it was like...
the play calling, we have to be fair here and honest.
Run the ball, right?
Give Amari the freaking ball.
I didn't get that.
The first time, when they hit the first field goal, they had 1st and goal at the 4. Amari 3-yard run, 2nd and goal at the 1, and he doesn't get a touch. The next time I tracked it, and I tweeted it out, and it probably generated the most stuff tonight on Twitter that we put out. They had a 17-snap stretch spanning multiple possessions where they ran 17 plays, and Omarion touched it 4 times.
And that's just...
And it goes back to the end of Virginia in the second half, in the fourth quarter when he wasn't getting touches. And I don't know what happens there, and we'll find out from Mac. We'll ask him on Monday, but you got to give him the ball. It's football 101. Mac said, he said quite a few times this year, I brought this up the other day in our video, in our football show.
Yeah.
Football is a simple game played and coached by complicated people. I think at times they made it more complicated than it needed to be tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They have the hat, run the damn ball. I took a picture of it.
The Corey Gaynor's hat?
Corey Gaynor. I took a picture of it and tweeted it out the other day. Just run the damn ball there.
Yeah.
Don't roll Drake out. Don't try to get cute. We know you got a big playbook. Just run the ball.
Yeah.
These guys know a trillion times more than I'll ever know. But sometimes coaches sort of out-coach themselves. They outthink themselves. And I think in those situations, give him the ball. If they do that, there is no overtime. Yeah. They were in position. They were dominating this game.
Oh, yeah.
They should have been up 28-7 at the half. And then they score early in the second half. They should have just put this thing away. This should have been a game where the reserves got some snaps maybe at the end.
Yeah. No, it really should have been. I know some people will look at the scoreline and be like, what are you talking about? But it's true.
Lifelines.
Yeah.
And they left points on the field. And honestly, you go back to the fourth quarter of Pittsburgh, they kicked 2 field goals in. They've been leaving points on the field a lot.
Yeah.
They score a ton. They got a great offense, but it could be better.
Yeah.
It could be more. They're much higher in total yards than they are in points scored because they leave points on the field too much. They did tonight. It damn near cost them. And they're lucky it didn't. They had the best player in college football. That's why. And he was part of that. Some of those may have been his calls, too. I don't know. We don't know. I just know that sometimes just line up, run off tackle. Marion bowls people over.
Yeah.
You're second and goal at the 1. Give it to him, score a touchdown. If they do that, this thing never goes to overtime. It's not 1:30 when we're doing this drop. It's 12:45.
Wouldn't that be nice, man? Oh, God, don't tell me that, AJ. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
It happened with Virginia. It happened here. I think that's something they got to get fixed. They got to figure out who they are. It's 10 games into the year. Who are you in the red zone? We heard all off season we're a run downhill in the red zone team. That was one of the issues of Phil Longo. Okay, be that. They had an opportunity tonight to be that and put a team away in the first half with a true freshman quarterback, force Duke to be in a position to have to throw, and throw over the top. Throw over the top. They didn't do it, and they got very fortunate to get this win. Because of Noah Burnette, which we should give props to.
Yeah, major props for him.
6 for 6. He's missed 1 field goal this year. Last year, he had the 2 misses against State. Right over here where he hit that one.
Eerily similar.
Same spots there. Well, hit the one in overtime.
Yep.
And same spot where he missed it last year, and then he missed the one against Oregon. So kudos to him. I asked some of the players about it, and they were just gushing about him. In fact, Drake said we ought to put him up on our shoulders and carry him around Chapel Hill.
Well, Drake tweeted about it. That was Drake's tweet after the game. Was Noah Burnette?
Carry him around campus.
Yeah, love this team or something like that.
So props to Noah Burnette, man.
Yeah, props to him. We'll talk about what this means in a second, but I do want to talk about the defense real quick because we have to. What is up with Carolina's defense in the fourth quarter, and why does it feel like they almost forget how to play football at times? Is it play calling? What is it? Because it looks like at times, I was talking to people down here, and I said this game reminds me so much of the State game last year, where a backup quarterback comes in here, torches your defense, and the game's probably closer than it should be, and it comes down to this field goal over here. Last year, Burnette misses it. He makes it today, but it could have easily been a missed field goal. It was a 42-yard field goal, I think. So you're holding on. Yeah, you're holding on by very thin margins in those situations, like we just talked about, where it shouldn't have been a game like that. But we can talk about the offense all we want. The offense could have put this game away early on. They didn't do that, so you can blame the offense on that. But what's up with the defense in the fourth quarter? Because I know there's people on this behind this camera that are watching this video right now. They're asking the same questions
and have about special teams. We might as well hit that in a minute as well.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really, from watching it, from watching it on TV, watching the stands, watching on the field, watching the press box, there's no real answers for it. It doesn't really make any sense.
I got to go back and triple check the numbers. I'll have it in one of my write-ups tonight. But in the last 4 fourth quarters against ACC teams, they've given up, I think, 80 points and like 900 yards. That's a game. Now, why? Miami was down, so they went tempo. Virginia went tempo, gave them a problem. Georgia Tech went tempo, gave them a problem. And then Duke started going a little tempo tonight. Duke was milking the clock, and then they're down. And by the way, it's the 3rd straight ACC game where Carolina's blown a double-digit second-half lead.
Yep.
They don't handle tempo well at all, and they allowed 4 for 4 on fourth down. There was a screenshot someone sent me of pre-snap on the 4th and inches that Duke converted, and the ball is almost right there at the first down. I mean, Duke had to just get a couple inches. Carolina's defensive line, they're a yard off the ball, yard and a half off the ball.
Defensive line was
in a 4-point stance. I don't. Look, this is a good football team that has a ton of things to get better.
Yeah.
We talked about that in September. Boy, they can get so much better. But I don't think they've improved in the last month.
I would agree with that.
I don't think the only thing that's really Omarion's getting better. Mm-hmm. I think the run blocking is consistently very good. Mm-hmm. That's one area of the team that's gotten better. The protection on Drake's gotten a little bit better here in recent weeks, but their fourth quarter defense has been terrible.
Well, there's no doubt been regression on defense.
It's like they were adjusting mid-stream early in the year, and when it starts snowballing in the fourth quarter, they don't make the adjustments. I asked Kamen, and he didn't really.
He said, that's the thing, no one seems to have an answer for it. It's just kind of like, I don't know.
You don't want to ask a kid that question in that environment. Maybe if we went back the old way, we're standing right next to it, it might be a little easier. Got to ask Gene on Monday. That's bad. Mm-hmm. That's not winning football. They won the game, but there were a lot of things tonight that weren't winning football. Special teams, again. The Doc Chapman snafu on the punt return. They gave up another onside kick. They gave up a converted fake punt. Mm-hmm. That's and Cedric took responsibility for that. But you got to be aware of that stuff. Some of these things some guys in the press box were saying, well, they got to be aware of this right now. The fake being one and the onside kick being the other. That would be a Duke-like thing because I think Duke figured that, look, we got to get the ball back.
Yeah.
We got to try to score points because we're not going to win this game if we don't. And there's a lot to clean up, but they're 8-2.
I know. I think that's the weird part. And let's segue into the last thing because we're going to talk about what this means. Obviously, for those who don't, I'm sure most people, if you're a Carolina fan, you probably know this by now, but Carolina no longer can compete for an ACC championship with Georgia Tech winning earlier this week and then Florida State beating Miami. Close game over there. But so
Georgia Tech
won on Thursday night, beat Virginia. Barely. But
Louisville,
excuse me. Louisville. Did I say Georgia Tech?
Yeah, Georgia Tech got rolled today.
If I say Georgia Tech, I apologize. Yeah, they got rolled. Louisville and Florida State, Carolina just essentially out of the race. So nothing to play for in terms of an ACC championship. That's not going to happen. But again, a tough stretch coming up. And I think what you just said a few minutes ago is kind of where a lot of the frustration lies with fans and with, people that are, want this program to be successful under Mac Brown is over the last month, we haven't really seen, especially defensively. I think there's been regression defensively because there was a point in this year where I thought the defense was good, and statistically they were pretty good.
First 3 quarters now, they give like 140 yards.
I know, and then for whatever reason, there's this theme this month where the fourth quarter comes around and the defense, I jokingly say this, but it feels like they forget how to play football. It feels like the people up there forget how to call the right plays. And again, I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. That's just what it feels like from somebody watching it down here. So Carolina, I'm not trying to piss anybody off around here, but it's just what it feels like.
Mac always says, hey, facts, they're facts.
Yeah. You can't watch the defense in the fourth quarter this month and be like, yeah, they've been pretty good. No, they've been bad. And you can just look at the yards to back that up.
Before this period started, they went in the Miami game ranked 35th nationally defensively. They dropped to 100 after Georgia Tech. The Campbell game helped to move up because they played an FCS.
And tonight,
there were a lot of other teams that already played their FCS. That helped their stats. But, I don't know, Duke didn't have a massive game offensively tonight as far as total yards
points-wise, though, yeah.
But, the points the most. I'll do the Larry Fedora impression all the time. Mm-hmm. But points are the most important stat. Mm-hmm. When Drake throws the pick here, the defense earlier this year was doing such a good job in sudden change defense getting off the field, and they didn't do it that time. Mm-hmm. It's just there was a collective, lots of things that you can pick at, and Mac will say, I guess, hey, look, at least we won. We got to win and got to pick at a lot of stuff, but they're 10 games in, and there's some of these things should be cleaner than they are, and they're not, and the staff knows, and I'm not saying anything they don't know.
No.
But they are 8-2. They have 2 games left that are on the road. They go to Clemson. They go to NC State. Those are both games they absolutely, I think they can lose every time they take the field.
Yeah, not to mention they're catching a Clemson and an NC State team at the wrong time if you're looking at how they've performed this year. It seems like 2 teams that are getting a little bit hotter, but it's a week-to-week thing.
It's the ACC.
Too, so anything
it
can
is
happen.
week to week.
Anything can happen.
Who thought Virginia Tech would go to BC and blow them out?
Oh, my God. I was shocked by that.
It's the ACC. Mm-hmm. So
what does this mean? Because Carolina, again, not competing for an ACC title. That's over. That was the state admission this year, though.
It was the state. It's one of the state admissions. They can still achieve goals.
Yeah.
I think, look, Mac said repeatedly 9 isn't enough. If they win the next 2, they've won 10, and with a chance to win 11. Because the kind of bowl they're going to go to, they should play 2.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So they could go 11-2. They have 8 now. Only twice since he left, they've won more than 8. It was 2015 and last year.
Yeah.
So we're picking at a lot of things because we should, because the standard's higher.
Of course.
And you cover a team based on what their standard is if it's reasonable. I think the standard here was reasonable. But they haven't been the same team for the last month. And they better be better next week going to Clemson, or they're going to be 8-3. And then they better be better when they go to Raleigh. They're going to be 8-4. And then 9 will be their max number of wins they can get. So they have to clean some stuff up. Clemson's going to go tempo.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
You got to fix that. You got to fix that this week. So what it means this is a team that still has a lot of improving to do. If this is NFL and they have a 17-game season, we'd say, okay, they still got some time to fix some of this stuff and turn in a great year. They can still have a great year without fixing some of these things because Drake's so good, Amarion's so good, Nesbitt, Tez, etc., and Copenhaver, the offensive line, they're so good offensively, that might be enough to win these next 2. But they got to clean up some stuff.
Oh,
they
absolutely,
really do.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't watch, like we've talked about, we've ended up focusing on this game a lot because of 3 things. We've also talked about this month a lot. You can't watch this football team over the last 3 or 4 games not taking the Campbell game out of it and say that there's been progression. If anything, I think there's been regression, particularly defensively.
I think this game connects to Virginia and everything in between. And you could throw Campbell out, but they weren't great early against their tempo.
No, 7-7 in the first quarter.
Yeah, 7-7.
I know we're not nitpicking at that. I mean,
we are nitpicking, but I think it's fair to nitpick because you should nitpick. This is a team that thought they had a chance to be a CFP contender coming through the side door. But people inside the program were saying in the offseason, hey, why can't we beat TCU? And when you look at the 2 games they lost,
potentially could have been.
Just get a stop. Get a stop in the fourth quarter. You win each one. I know it's easier said than done.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's a very hard sport to play, and wins are hard to come by, so you savor every win that you get. And they beat their rival. Mac has won 13 straight against Duke. The kids, and every kid in this program has never lost to Duke.
It's pretty wild, 13 straight.
Yeah, 13 straight, going back to his first. He won his last 8, and he's won 5 here. So they get to keep the victory bell. There are a lot of positive things that come out here. The seniors had a great win. The fans were treated to a hell of a show.
Oh, man, it was a great football game.
Hey, they stormed the field. This is 2 straight ACC games where the field's been stormed.
I know. That's weird.
And theoretically, next week will be 3 because they always go on the field at Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson, you just storm the field no matter what.
God, they're storming the field after beating. No, they're not. So, who knows? If they lose in Raleigh, they'll storm the field, too.
And Josh Gray will be tweeting about it.
This was great theater. This was great TV. There's a lot of star players in North Carolina, especially offensively, that were starting. Huzzy made that deflection on a 2-point conversion. He made a couple other PBUs. He's a stud. So, look, they're 8-2. They're 4-2 in the ACC now. Most of their goals are still intact. Look, if they go 11-2 and they win the Pop-Tart Bowl, which used to be Cheez-It, which was once Champ Sports. It's the one they played Baylor in back in 15. If
PTSD for a lot of Carolina.
And they beat a Big 10 team or they beat a Big 12 team or something like that, and they go 11-2, it's a great year. So for all the nitpicking that we're doing, they're still on track to have a great year. The kind of year that doesn't happen very often around here.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're nitpicking on some things, not just saying, hey, they got to win, that was great, is because, again, the standard's been raised.
Absolutely.
Mac Brown has raised his standard in this program, and he's striving for more. So when we cover him, we're going to judge them accordingly. So, but I'm telling you, man, they got to get some crap fixed. Special teams are a disaster, and the defense in the fourth quarter is inexplicable.
I'll go out on a limb and say if they play like they did defensively again tonight and like they did against Georgia Tech in the fourth quarter, they won't win these next 2 games. Is that?
They won't win the next 3.
Yeah, it's a good point. They won't win the next 3. And I think that's what we're kind of saying here is, look, 8-2 is great. That's fantastic. And again, the standard's been risen by Mac, and you have to give him credit for that. But again, I think we're sitting here nitpicking it because we can kind of see the writing on the wall. If they keep playing like that defensively, who are they going to beat? They're not going to get to that 10.
They were really good the first 3 quarters.
I know.
They were getting off the field. They were flying around. I thought one of the adjustments they made at halftime, and we didn't. We'll ask Gene on Monday. that they actually were a little bit tighter in their coverage.
Yeah.
They gave Loftus some throws.
He had a lot of time back there. He had a lot of time in the
just
fourth
in the
quarter,
coverage. Like, if it's 3rd and 6, they gave him 6.5 and that kind of thing. They tightened that up a little bit, but man, that someone poked a hole in the bottom of the boat and they just plummeted to the sea, the floor of the sea, man.
Yeah, it's been a theme, unfortunately, and it's 2 o'clock.
It's 1:50.
Guys, we're going to get out of here because we could sit here and talk for another 30 minutes about this game because the game was just a wild game, to say the least. But again, Carolina winning 47-45. Tough weekend for Duke. I tweeted it out. Caleb Love coming back last night, getting the win. Yeah. Didn't necessarily play well, but hits the free throws late on, and then they lose like this again. I mean, it's been a tough weekend for Duke. So Carolina fans, I said it after the game.
At least we're not processing that.
Yeah, I told Carolina fans, leave your criticisms off Twitter tonight and just enjoy the win.
Because sometimes when a team loses, you actually have to do more work.
Yeah, of course.
Because you have to process it differently. Sometimes when a team wins, the process is a little bit easier because it's right there in front of you. And if you have to write and talk about negatives, you have to be a little more careful with how you present that stuff. So at least I'm not Connor O'Neill.
If you guys can hear that.
He also runs the Wake site.
Oh, does it?
They lost to Georgia last night in basketball, and they got punked by State today.
It's been tough.
Connor O'Neill's having a rough couple. Look, it's the job. You do the job, but he's trying to communicate to a bunch of angry fans.
Yeah. Speaking of a rough couple hours, you got about 12 hours till tip-off in the Dean Smith Center, too, AJ. Yeah? So, again, we'll get out of here because you got a lot of work to do.
I'm a citizen of Chapel Hill tonight.
You got a lot of work to do. I got some work to do. I'd like to go to bed before 4 a.m. We'll see if that happens. Okay. AJ won't even leave here till 6:30 in the morning, probably. 5:30?
Yeah.
You don't want to. Let's not even think about it. Positive vibes only, AJ. It's 2 a.m. We're not going to think about time. We're just going to act like it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another episode of Three Things Postgame Podcast. Appreciate y'all watching. If you enjoyed the win, and hey, if you're watching this and you storm the field, like the video below because you might have juked and jived me. I was out there like Amari at Hampton juking people, man. It was pretty wild.
I took a little short video from the press box before I waited 14 and a half minutes for the elevator to open.
that sounds about right.
The elevator's not going to get one of our 3 stars from this game.
No, it's not. And that's the note we'll end it on, guys. We appreciate you guys watching. Share, subscribe, hit the notification bell too. See you on the next one. Thanks.